So we are here with Gabby Bernstein, who is best-selling author of the book, The Universe Has Your Back. Gabby and I met, when did we meet?
I feel like I probably stalked you on Instagram for a
Oh
while.
my God, stop.
I definitely was like girl fanning you for a while.
Oh my goodness.
And then maybe we bumped into each other at an event or something like that.
I think so. So Gab is a spirit, I would call her a spiritual guru. She has a full cult following, and I wanted to hear, something at HBFIT and something that I talk about a lot is how, it's really important to be on your own journey and how everyone's journey looks very different from one another's. I kind of wanted to hear from Gab how she got on her journey and how she's sharing the journey with so many people and touching so many different people's lives.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I totally agree with you that it's our own personal journey and our story that ultimately becomes how we express ourselves in the world through our work or through our social feed or through just the interactions that we have with people on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So it's your story, people. It's your story that heals people, and it's your story that serves people.
Right.
And through my own personal journey of personal growth and spiritual development, I've authored 6 books and have been on a speaking circuit for 11 years, just really sharing my story and sharing the stories that continue to develop as I grow. But it really all started when I was in my early 20s. I had started my first business when I was 21, and it was a PR business where I represented nightclubs. And so it was like, and this was in 2000, it was like hardcore, totally trying to prove myself to the world, showing everybody how fabulous I was.
Gosh.
Everything was about like, how can I get past the velvet ropes, and what, how can I be this, this nightlife person, or whatever I thought the pretenses.
What clubs were you?
So the only ones you might still remember would be like Cielo.
Oh my God, of course.
Sutra, which is gone.
I faked call the cops on Cielo when they didn't let me in one time with my sister's real ID. I told them that they were racist, and then I called 911. And I called 911, but really I was on the phone with 311, and the person on the other line was like, "Miss, I think you have the wrong number."
You're out of control. You're so funny. 311. You're like, they're racist. That would be the wrong number to call. So it was like really, really hardcore in this nightlife vibe, and I totally burnt out by the time I was 25. And I had this really bad case of what you'd call the when I haves, right? So like, when I have that boyfriend, I'll be happy, or when I have those shoes, I'll be happy, or when I have that next client, I'll be happy. And as I acquired all these things, I still wasn't happy. And so I was on a big outside search, and that outside search led to a lot of addictive patterns, love addiction, work addiction, and then which ultimately became drug and alcohol addiction. And so here I was 25, and I was severely addicted to drugs and totally burnt out, but still high functioning.
Right.
So, the world is still celebrating you while you're completely killing yourself. That was my reality. And thankfully, I had a spiritual foundation. I grew up as with a meditating mother and visiting ashrams, and I was taught to meditate really young. So it was that foundation that actually saved my life when I was at my darkest moment. And so I, in October 2nd of 2005 was my last drink. And I was coming down from a night out and looking at the stack of self-help books next to my bed and kind of assessing my life. And I remember, without realizing it, I said, I need a miracle. And the moment I said those words, I heard this intuitive voice come forward. And that voice said, get clean, and you will live a life beyond your wildest dreams.
Wow.
And it was so, like, when you talk about an inner voice, it's like an intuition. It's like a sense of knowing. And it was so loud and it was so directive that I was just like, I cannot deny that.
Right.
I called a friend that I knew was in a program. I went to a meeting, and I'd been sober for 11 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was the catalyst. But the interesting thing for me was much like you. And when I was in my 20s, I was like, let's go. I was like, F it, let's go. That was my mentality. So as I started to heal and get better, I started channeling all my energy into telling people how they could feel better too. Whether they were, it wasn't necessarily how to get sober, how to feel better about your life. Mm-hmm. And so I started putting on all these talks, like at the Soho House or wherever I could put on a talk. I'd put on a talk and I could get a microphone. And I started sharing my story. Exactly this. And I started sharing what I was doing to feel better. And that's what I've been doing for 11 years. And like I said, 6 books later, and all of the work that I've been doing to just be an expression of my own personal growth, so people could see themselves in that story.
Amazing. That's incredible. And you were in New York when this is all when it all went down?
Yeah, I lived in the West Village at the time, and it was great to be in New York, because it was kind of like, I was talking about spirituality and personal growth way before anybody was gluten-free, and way before people were like they'd be like, what is a life coach? Like, what the hell are you talking about? And I had like women just like huddling in my apartment, just like meditating and like chanting, and this wasn't a thing yet.
Right.
So it was interesting to be sort of at the forefront of that zeitgeist, and just see like how amazing it is to see this wellness movement become a trend.
So my mom is also like, she's a Reiki master, and she grew up, she in the house when I was growing up, she was always meditating, always had like crystals taped to all of her different chakras. She'd like answer the door with like the crystals taped to her body and be like, Mom, like the UPS man does not want to hear about your chakras, like relax. And she would be like chanting and the whole thing. So I totally understand about what you're talking about, having a spiritual foundation, which for me did make it easier for me to embrace and want to like explore more within the world of wellness. When I was I was like 19 when I first kind of really decided that I was going to take this like plunge into the world. But you do work that I don't do. I try to meditate and I try to speak to myself in a positive way and give myself mantras and all this stuff, but I feel like you really live that every day and you bring that to different people around the world. So I kind of wanted to talk about some of the techniques that you encourage people to embrace.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think that like I've always sort of identified myself as someone who's not an avoider. Like if I'm uncomfortable, I'm going to find a way to feel relief. And so much of my work is about helping people find relief from their suffering, particularly in the times that we're living in and all that's come up. And you suffer the moment you turn on the news these days.
Right.
And so we have to just be, we can't survive these times without tools for our well-being. And so, I have my ways of offering those tools. You have your ways of offering those tools, all of which are helping people find relief, right? I mean, even just to be very clear, you do have a practice, which is the physical elements that you bring into your life are probably the most beneficial to your mind, to your brain, to your, to connecting to your intuition. Like that is meditation. So let's not take away that. That's major. But then there's also something about being still. And the interesting thing I would almost recommend to you is like when you've had that really amazing workout, this is a great tip for everybody, when you've had that major workout, take the time. In my first book, Add More Ing to Your Life, Ing is inner guidance, I talked about the Ing zone, right? So it's like when you do something physical, you actually get into this zone, as you know, where there's a moment or there's a period where you can actually download, like you can really listen, you can let your higher self come forward. So I would suggest like next time you do a big run, take that 10 minutes at the end. Or almost like you're like a living shavasana, how can I turn my exercise into a meditative moment? Because you have that window after some great physical movement that you're really awakened. You've gotten your physical resistance out of the way to receive really interesting stuff. So I'd almost take like a notebook with you to the gym and just write for 5 minutes after you work out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
See what happens. See what comes through. Like that clarity in that space is so powerful. So take advantage of it. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I have so many tools. I mean, I think that the biggest thing right now is for people to find some kind of meditation practice, and that can be very overwhelming to people. Like, I don't want to meditate. I can't be still. Like, but it's really detrimental to our lives these days, particularly because of these little devices that we have.
The devices, the nonstop, the go, feeling like you have to. I get a text message. Like, do I have to respond to the person immediately? I just feel like everything is so reactive.
It's so reactive, which is so bad for your brain. First of all, let's talk about that. And then obviously it completely disconnects you from your spiritual connection or your intuition, if we want to call it that. So when we're in this place of sort of like multitasking, which ladies like us do very well, let's not actually celebrate that anymore. Let's work on that. Because in that place of like, I'm doing 1,000 things at once, we're completely cutting off our connection to our intuition. We're totally messing up our brain and we're getting less done. Okay, so maybe these days, one thing I'm doing very practically, and this is not a spiritual tip, but it's a practical tip, is I'm taking 5 things on a list. I have like a little, base camp where I keep all my business stuff, and I will have a list of the 5 things I'm doing today, and I will not do the second thing until I've completed the first thing.
See, that's so good, because for me, I will start the first thing, and before I finish the first thing, I do 2, 3, and 4.
That's right.
Then I go back to 1, finish that, and then I'll go to 5.
Answer some texts in between, do some Instagram in between. I mean, it's crazy, right?
Crazy.
And so I'm so happy that I'm getting you. I'm like almost 10 years older, like 8 years older than you. I'm happy to be able to sit here and say, let me save your brain, you know? And like from brain fog and from the crazy and also just like the vitality that you cut off when you're in that multitasking place. Right. And so this is something I'm literally just addressing now because I started to get brain fog because I was feeling so out of alignment. Okay. Right? So I will not do number 2 until I've done number 1. And then if I don't get through 5, I pick up the 5th one the next morning.
Got it.
And then the other thing is like closing your browsers while you're doing these projects, right? Yeah, I know it's scary. You're like, I have
closing your browser while you, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. But what's more crazy is that our brain is not meant to be doing all this. And so the thing that I've found,
you'd be so upset if you saw all of the tabs.
No. You and I are one and the same. Like I see how much you produce and how much comes out of you, and it's like it's all coming from a place of inspiration. So it's all amazing. But I challenge you to think about what would that be, because this has been my own experience of like produce so much coming out of me because I'm so lit up, because I'm so inspired. It's almost like detrimental because we've got so much we want to share, right? But at the end of the day, there's so much more that you can cultivate when you have that focused time. Mm-hmm. So doing these 5 things actually is really proven to me very quickly that I can actually get more done in a shorter period of time because the focused attention actually speeds up time. Okay. Yeah. So when you're actually multitasking, you're still actually only doing one thing at a time.
Right.
But you think you're doing multiple things.
Okay.
And then the other beat is having a meditation practice, because I always say if you want to slow down to speed up, right?
Right.
So when we actually begin to learn how to manage our nervous system and listen to our intuition, we can create so much more. We can be so much more. And it's less about doing and more about being.
Right.
And so, for folks out there that are like, okay, cool, Gabby, but I don't know how to meditate. Like, how do I figure this out? There's countless practices to begin. And so I want to give you 2 or 3 today that you can just start so that you can just begin where you are. Okay. And so this is a meditation for beginners. It's really simple. It's finding your pulse. So you just place your 4 fingers on your pulse, and it takes a second or 2. I just had your dandy blend, so my pulse is like boom, boom. But find your pulse, and then with your pulse, you would repeat a mantra, and the mantra we'll use is a Kundalini mantra. I teach Kundalini yoga and meditation. The mantra is Satnam.
Wait, where am I feeling my pulse?
You are alive, so we'll find your pulse, don't worry. Maybe if you can't find it there, you'll find it on your neck. Yeah, you'll find it on your neck.
I just found it. I had to be quiet.
You're all alive. You wouldn't be watching.
I had to be quiet to find it.
Exactly. That's why we go to the pulse. So you have to be quiet. Find your pulse. And then the mantra Satnam means truth identified, just so we know what it means. And you would repeat the mantra Satnam. Sat, which with each beat of the pulse, you say 1 beat of the mantra. Sat. And you'd say it silently, or you could say it out loud. And you can sit for like 2 to 3 minutes with the beat of your pulse, repeating the mantra Satnam. Satnam. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful mantra. It's about bringing all of the inspiration from the ether into your nam. Truth is my name. So bringing the truth into your world, into your name, into your life. Yeah. It's beautiful. So that's an easy one. That's for beginners.
And you think that's good to do like in the morning or at night?
Best time to meditate is first thing in the morning.
Okay.
And then 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
So that's been my experience. So, and also I practice something called Transcendental Meditation, which recommends the morning and the afternoon for 20 minutes each, but chill. You could do 5 minutes a day and you'll be fine. Okay. Don't freak out. I'd rather you do something than do nothing.
Right.
So I think first thing in the morning, sit up in your bed, do your 5-minute mantra, Satnam. Even if you just forget the pulse part and just repeat the mantra, your mind will detour and you're going to be like, I have to do 1,000 things, and then just come back to the mantra. Then you're going to go back to crazy town and then just come back to the mantra. So just go back and forth. It's really, really simple.
Okay.
So that's one. Let's see, what else? A great one for stress relief and anxiety is a breath meditation. So you'd breathe in for 4 strokes through your nose. So it would look like this. In, 2, 3, 4, and then out your mouth. Out your mouth. And you're doing the breath right, you can see. So the inhale is like a little extension of your diaphragm. You're doing it perfectly. Yeah. And you want to just put your hand on your stomach if you start. So in, 2, 3, 4, and then out your mouth. That for like 1 minute can completely reorganize your whole energy, completely lower your cortisol levels, bring you back down to a place of peace.
Oh my gosh.
And if you get stressed out, that's your meditation.
That's amazing. Because my cortisol spikes at night.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, a lot of that sort of like stress hormone stuff at night can be fixed if you do a 4 o'clock in the afternoon meditation.
Right.
And they say with Transcendental Meditation, which is just a mantra meditation for 20 minutes, that your cortisol levels can be lowered 30% within 20 minutes.
Wow.
And a whole night of sleep only lowers your cortisol levels by 10%.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that
the power of breath.
Yeah. And just that power of giving yourself time to be still.
Right.
And we like I said, we will speed up by slowing down. We're afraid to slow down. We have so much to do. We have so much going on.
Right.
Actually, that space, which 20 minutes twice a day or 5 minutes twice a day, will create more space because you become more present. And it's really what we are capable of creating is a direct reflection of the energy that we are. Right. So if we're inspired and elevated and excited, this is why you've created all that you've created. Mm-hmm. And then if you can even combine that with a little bit of stillness, it'll be radical.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Damn. Sick. I feel like, okay, here's something that I'm like dealing with. I feel like, for instance, I am always go, go, go. I meet so many people, and sometimes like I feel like I'm soaking in too many people's energies.
Great question. So good. Yeah. So good.
And I need to like clear that.
Let's talk about psychic protection, right?
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So first of all, even just having a social media profile and like in your case being a public figure, but everyone's a public figure these days, really. Yeah. Everybody's got a social media and you're picking up energy, people are implanting energy on you without you even knowing it. Like just because so many people are just seeing you in the world, and not just you, this is everybody. We're all putting ourselves out. Yeah. And then there's like almost these energetic cords that are being attached that we're not even aware of. Okay. So, an energy cord can be attached through an email or through a glance, or someone could be watching you on stage and like sink into you energetically and you don't even realize it. So we have to have practices for detaching from the imprints that other people place upon us. Okay. And so we can't be the victim of those imprints. We have to just know how to cleanse our own field, right? And so, and if this sounds too heady for people, I mean, just think about what it's like when you walk into a room and there's somebody that's like super awesome, they make you feel really good, and you leave and you feel energized in their presence, versus being in a space with somebody who's really funky and down, and that like how that could just leave such a negative imprint on you. Right. Everyone has an experience of understanding that, right? Right. So some of the things that we can do is first and foremost, just be aware of it. So like be conscious of the people that lift you up and the people that bring you down. Right. Or be aware that like, I just posted that Instagram story and like, I don't know if it's like, I don't know why I'm feeling weird right now. Like maybe there's a projection. So just becoming aware of how you feel in the presence of the world, okay? And then that awareness is first and foremost, because when you become conscious of it, you can say, okay, this is my time to shut down. This is my time to open up. Right. Like when you're on the stage and you're DJing, that's when you want to open up. When you get off that stage and everybody's drunk around you, you need to learn how to shut her down. Right. Okay. And so some simple things for like closing off your field, like literally cross your arms. Yeah. Like just simply just like, and not nasty, but just this is like a way of saying, I'm done. Like show's over, right? I'm going home, totally. Right? Even if you have to hang out, you have to mingle, you have to have dinner with somebody, but you're feeling a little bit like they're at you. This movement, this expression physically is just sort of like, no, thank you, I'm good. right? So that crossing,
Right.
thing. Whereas it's very obvious, like this is the opening. When I get on stage, it's like I am open. Do that book signing, I am lovely, I'm kind, and I'm like, you cannot take my energy.
Right.
And I don't want an imprint, right?
Right.
And then, another thing would be very simple, like salt bath, beautiful bathtub, like throw some salt in there and cleanse your energy.
Okay.
You could do a meditation where you envision almost like a waterfall of light pouring over you.
I've heard about this one. Yeah,
Stunning.
love.
Like, just see the light just pouring over you in your mind's eye, and just let it just soak you and go from your head all the way down to your toes. And then as you breathe in, breathe the light back in and exhale it out, and just cleanse yourself.
Okay. Are there some salts that you prefer, like a I don't know, like a different, like a combo that you think is really great, or are you just like Epsom salt is great?
I think Epsom salt's fine. I love rose water, so I'll throw rose water in the tub.
Okay.
Here's the thing, trust your intuition. What you're guided to is what you need.
Right.
So if you're like lavender,
I love
I
love lavender.
Yeah, so I know.
Okay.
So that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Just follow what feels right for you, right?
Okay.
So if lavender is your thing, you just say, yes, I need my lavender. Or if you need to sage yourself or your home,
Right.
just be careful you don't turn off the alarm.
Yeah.
That's what I happened to smoke at my house, and then the police show up, and I'm like, oh God.
Do you, speaking of sage, a lot of people say to like sage your home and everything. Like, what's the process of that? Like, I have sage bundles, but like, I always feel like it leaves a weird smelling residue after I've burned sage.
Yeah, well, get a sage that smells good to you if you
Okay.
can find one. And then I would just open up the windows and just sage the corners of the house and set the intention. Well, you sage from corner to corner. And just, especially if there's like an area where, like, let's say you had a dinner party last night and there was some funky stuff happening, like clean out that space. And you can bring the sage all throughout the house just to clear the energy, but you want to open the windows to send it out. And also that will get rid of the smell.
Of course.
And then the other thing is set the intention. So while you're saging, you can just be like, whatever energy is lingering in this space that I don't want to have here, just get out. Like, you call the shots. And I think that people don't really take full responsibility for the power of their intentions.
Right.
Now they can say, out, this is not your party.
Right.
Get out of my house.
Oh my God, amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like you just gave us so many good tips. What else do we want to talk about that we haven't
I feel
really?
like there's so much. I mean, mainly I think that a big mantra that I live by is that my happiness is a choice I make.
Right.
And it's like, in any given situation, we can choose to ride with the flow of life, or we can resist it. And I catch myself all day long being like, I have too much to do. I can't do this. I can't do that. I got, you know what I mean? But the moment that I redirect and say, okay, I can take this off my plate, that's moving down the stream rather than resisting, right? So there's little ways that we can shift our thoughts and our energy just to start to move downstream and not be resisting.
Right.
And so if your story is, I'm too busy, I can't get it all done, then a new way of moving downstream would say, I'm going to take something off my plate. I'm going to do my 5 things today.
Right.
I'm going to be do the best I can. I'm going to make sure I have my meditation this afternoon. And those thoughts begin to redirect your energy.
Okay.
So just becoming conscious of the ways that you're in resistance versus in the flow. And if you notice yourself in resistance, because you'll be in resistance all day long. It's just sort of our nature, right?
Right.
It's not our true nature. It's the buildup of what we've been taught to believe.
Right.
So we're in that resistance.
Yeah, the societal.
Just everything.
Yeah.
It's like struggle, work hard. You
Right.
can't get things done unless you work your ass off.
Right.
You can't manage it all. Like, these are those belief systems that we've
Right.
embodied. And so our work to work within that construct that has been placed upon us is to start to just begin to change the thought.
Right.
The way that you adjust the thought is by choosing a new one, right? So starting to lean into general ideas, very general, right? So you don't want to be like, I'm broke, and then be like, I'm going to make money tomorrow. Like, that's just not true, right? Or it may not be because you don't believe it yet.
Right.
So you would be in that place of, I'm broke, but then you can say, well, I'm actually open to creative possibilities, and I have the internet, and the internet's a neat way to make money. So there's really cool opportunities without having to get hired, and you start going downstream.
Right. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Major. That in itself, if you take that alone.
That is major.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I always seem like, I guess how I kind of think about with everything that I'm doing, I'm like constantly on the go, and I don't have the feelings that I think it's too much, which I'm lucky for, because I don't get overwhelmed very easily.
Good.
Because I do break everything down into smaller pieces.
Great.
And that's how I'm able to like kind of tackle these, I don't know, my to-dos. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And sometimes I do feel like it's a little all over the place because I'm constantly traveling, my team's here, and HBFIT, and I feel like I'm a little disconnected sometimes. But then I just, again, for me, it comes down to time management. Then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna spend 2 hours in my day on this block of work, and I'm gonna go through my list of to-dos within that vertical that I'm looking at. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
I think also like while you're in this place in your life where you're like have the energy to be out, because that will change. I mean, maybe not. I don't want to, but for me, when I was in my early 30s, I was like, get me on that plane, let's go.
Yeah.
And then when, and you're still 29, so it's like, you're still flying, let's go. I watch you, I'm like, oh shit, she's on the road again, and then it gets to a place in your life where you're like, I will say no, and I don't want to go far, and I want, you know what I mean? So you're still in this beautiful space where, and this is for a lot of your, fan base are in that space in their life where like, it's a yes, like everything is a yes. So the more that you can be streamlined, the more centered you are, the more those yeses will have the same magnitude that you want them to have, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think you also impress me a lot in the sense that you're willing to get help and ask for help and let people surround you.
Well, that's one thing I feel like, even coming from a startup background, I was always asking for help. Like that's my number one thing. Like I know that I don't know everything. I look for partners and people to help me that have completely different skill sets than my own. And I think that's really powerful to recognize when you need help and asking for help.
It's imperative, and I think that it's the biggest lesson that I would say to anyone, particularly the young female entrepreneurs out there, is begin asking for help from day one.
Right.
And I had to learn this the hard way. 10 years into my career, only a year ago did I really start to build the team that I really needed.
Right.
And it was because I had this really crazy belief that was, if I don't do it, nobody else will.
Right.
And it will just destroy you. So I see it in you that you have this no problem just getting the right team around you. And that, for whatever it is that you're doing, if you're a mom and you need support, or if you're an entrepreneur and you need to build a team, or however it is, that's a major lesson in life, is to just be willing to receive.
Totally.
This is a mudra and a mantra, and it's a Kundalini meditation.
Okay.
And Kundalini is the yoga of awareness. So it's a beautiful practice of just like waking up to your light and waking up to your intuition and awareness. And so this is the mudra is your pointer finger to your thumb.
Okay.
Your middle finger to your thumb. Your ring finger to your thumb, and your pinky finger to your thumb. And the mantra is, peace begins with me. Peace begins with me. So you can just close your eyes for a second. Just repeat it with me. Peace begins with me. Peace begins with me. Peace begins with me. And so you can do that on the subway. You can do that before a meeting. You can do it before a date. You can do it before a big interview. You can do it before, if you're feeling that anxiety come on, your hands under the table. Just giving yourself that moment to tune in. My publicist has a lot of trouble on the subway, that she uses this on the subway.
Really?
It saves her. Teach it to your kids too.
That's a really sweet thing to teach your kids. That's so cute.
Yes, let's start teaching our kids to be more mindful now.
Yeah,
they will save the world.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming,
honey.
babe. This was amazing.
So much fun.
So much fun.
Yay.
Go get Gabby's book.
Bye, guys.